Hello again and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's video we shall be discussing the recent points update to his Imperial Guard, the Emperor's true finest. There are some heady heights, there are some terrible lows, but overall these points look really exciting and I think they are going to have a big impact on the competitive Guard meta. And so without further ado, let's not mess around any further. Let's mount up, roll out, and deep strike right into today's episode. First things first, I want to say that we will be focusing only on the Guard points changes today. I will make sure there's a link down in the description to the latest Minotaur and Field Manual, and in there not only will you find the Guard points updates, but the ones for all other factions as well. But no more blue balling, let's get into the points changes, and we'll start off with the bad news and let's have a look at what has been nerfed. What units have had their points increased? Unsurprisingly, but still sadly, a lot of the Guard artillery does seem to have gone up in points, and the Basilisk is no exception, up from 135 to now 150. The Basilisk is one of our best artillery pieces, a great take all comers. It's got decent strength, AP and damage, and thanks to the fact that it can fire indirectly, it often can take advantage of the combined arms attachments lethal hits as well. We were seeing Basilisks being used in a lot of top armies, and even those that weren't spamming artillery were defaulting to the Basilisk as their go-to artillery piece. Combine this with the fact that the high-profile list used by David Gaylard, which won a couple of super majors, contained a pair of Basilisks. It is unsurprising that this thing ended up catching a points increase. 15 points though isn't so bad, and as you'll see later on, with some of the points decreases that Guard has received, overall I think that a lot of players who are running a hybrid Guard army won't see much change in their overall list. You may find that your list has gone up 5 or 10 points in total. You may have found that it's not changed at all. I had a couple of armies which just had a couple of Basilisks there and a few Leman Russes, and in the wash I came out no different. But the old Basilisk wasn't the only artillery piece to get a nerf. The Manticore continues its journey into the stratosphere by going up to an eye-watering 190 points. That is a 10-point increase from its previous cost. Frankly, the Manticore was already very much on the edge of being too expensive for the everyday Guard army, and I suspect 190 points, even if it's only a 10-point increase, psychologically that's probably going to push more and more Guard players further and further away from taking the Manticore. The final Guard artillery piece to go up was the Medusa Carriage Battery. I am somewhat surprised that this did go up in points, although it had been theory crafted to be the replacement, the successor to the Manticore from the last points update. We hadn't actually seen a huge amount of them hitting the competitive scene, and that's mostly due to the actual rarity of the model itself. I suspect this was a preemptive move by Games Workshop to balance the Medusa carriage out before everyone pivoted over to it, and at the same time it brings it in line with the other Forge World artillery such as the Earthshaker Carriage Battery, which itself is 120 points. The big question that's going to be going through a lot of people's minds is Guard artillery now dead on arrival? And I personally don't think so. I think you'll see a lot of people pivot away from it just because it's seen points increases, but by and large, if you were taking 4 or 5 artillery pieces, let's say you were taking 3 Basilisks and 2 Manticores, your list has gone up by 65 points. If you're a Krieg style player, you just need to drop 10 of your standard Krieg infantry and you're back in business. That is 10 less bodies, so your list is going to be a little bit less effective, but it's not too difficult for you to accommodate the new point changes. We've not seen increases by 100 or 200 points to some lists like we have seen in the past. For example, when Eldar got a lot of their nerfs, a lot of players' lists literally went up by 100+ points, and that did completely fundamentally knock out a couple of certain playstyles for that faction. Rather, I suspect that these artillery changes on their own were not the main focus of the nerfs. I think that GW was trying to rein in one specific list, and the clue for this is not in the artillery nerfs, but in the artillery nerfs plus the other two units that went up, which were Kazakin and Bulgrin. Kazakin went up from 100 points to 120 points, which actually puts them higher than the old Tempestus Silence points, which I am surprised about. I thought they'd just bring them into line with the other elite of the guard, but they've actually gone beyond that. You've also seen Bulgrin go up from 80 points to 90 points. When you put all of this together, you realize that the top tier, S tier winning tournament list that had actually got a couple of super majors has gone up by a lot. It's gone up by 60 points for the Kazakin, it's gone up by 30 points on the Basilisk, 20 points on the Manticores, so we're looking at 150 points there, and then it's also gone up an additional 20 points. So we're looking at a 130 point increase on that one specific list, and that is similar to what we've seen when GW, like I said, wanted to rein in specific builds for factions like Eldar. So that's where the true nerf is. This isn't GW targeting individual units in isolation. This is the balance team doing something quite interesting and essentially going after a specific list, and then in the case of the Medusas, going, look, don't try and pivot, we've covered that angle as well. And this is why I'm totally okay with these points nerfs, even though I was using a pair Basilisk, because unless you were using that exact combination of models, unless you were basically emulating that top list, most guard players are going to come out of this fine. And that's because we have received some pretty significant, pretty important points buffs. That's right, we've had way more units go down in points than units that went up. The first unit that got a helping hand was the Attilan Rough Riders. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. I've been talking about Rough Riders since the beginning of 10th edition, and one of the ways that I've hypothesized that they can be quite useful is not in the role of shock cavalry, but rather pseudo or alternative infantry squads. You see, 5 Rough Riders have got 10 wounds. 10 Rough Riders have got 20 wounds. That's the same as a 20-man infantry blob. The advantage Rough Riders had over these infantry squads, though, were they were faster with their 12-inch move, and they also were a little bit more durable with their 4-up save. Now they've come down by 10 points. That puts them on the same level as an infantry squad, puts them on the same level as a Cajun shock troop unit, and I think that truly molds them into their role of fast-moving infantry squads. They're still going to have more objective control than a lot of other units out there, and thanks to them having the regiment keyword, they can be reinforced, and also, if you do need a bit of extra objective control, you can duty and honor them. So I suspect that we will see more people using Rough Riders. I know there's going to be some folks that want to try out the full 30 Ride of the Rohirrim style shock cavalry charge, and that would be cool, and it might work. It's not too expensive. 30 of them is only 360 points, but I rather think that a smarter way of using them is as fast moving objective grabbers and essentially just faster infantry screening waves. Either way, they've had a buff, and I hope that it's going to encourage more people to try them out. Another 2 units which went down in points was the Hellhound and the Hydra. The Hellhound went down from 125 points to 115, and the Hydra went down from 95 points to 85 points. Both of these vehicles have hovered on the edge of usability. At the end of the day, the Hellhound does have a 2+ save, making it pretty durable. And in fact, when you compare a Hellhound to like a Lehman Russ, for example, it has almost the same durability profile, because las cannons wound it on 3s, but lighter heavy weapons like autocannons wound it on 5s. The only real difference is the Hellhound's got 11 wounds and the Lehman Russ has got 13. As for the Hydra, at 95 points it was a cheap Dakka tank, but due to the fact that it lacked rapid fire, it didn't have a huge amount of damage output. 4 shots from the Hydra autocannon plus 3 shots from the heavy bolter meant that it was enticing on paper, but because it was so cheap, but its damage output often meant that it rarely did more than a few wounds here and there. Now with both of these units, I suspect that we might see a few more people trying out the Hellhound and the Hydra, but I don't think we're going to suddenly see fleets of them driving across the board outside of some skewed themed medium and light armor spam lists. Long story short, both of these units remain viable, but I don't think they're going to be hyper competitive. They're just a bit cheaper for those people that were already liking to take them. Where the big buffs come in is in the heavy armor. Nearly every single Leman Russ received a points decrease. The Leman battle tank down from 180 to 170 points. Oh baby, it was already becoming my favorite go-to option because those full rerolls. Now I think the Leman battle tank being 170 points makes it one of, if not the best, Leman Russ options we've got right now, especially when you take into account that the Leman Demolisher did not go down at all. There's a 30-point difference in the demo and the battle tank, and that 30 points that you save can easily go into getting something like Creed, and therefore you can get extra AP by her Fields of Fire, yeah, which offsets the whole issue with the battle tank. Yes, the battle tank is really, the fact it got any decreases at all is amazing. It was fine at 180. At 170, just a cherry on top. In a similar vein, the Lemus Exterminator, another fantastic vehicle, an awesome force multiplier, just went down by 10 points as well, from 180 to 170. The Exterminator, for many guard players, was an auto include. Some people didn't go for it, but some people never left home without it because of the fact that it has twin linked, it's got rapid fire, and also it gets extra AP out there as well with its Withering Hail ability. The fact that the battle tank and the Exterminator went down is wild and very, very good news. Another unit which has done very well out of this is the Leman Russ Eradicator, going down to 150 points. That is very interesting. Very tempting indeed. The Eradicator has a bit of a funny weapon, which, unlike a lot of the Lemus cannons which fire D6 plus 3 shots, this one fires 6 plus D3, giving it incredible volume. It also is AP -1, but it gets round that feels bad zone because it has ignores cover, meaning its AP -1 actually means something. I can't help but wonder if we're going to see more Eradicators hit the field. I'm certainly going to be trying them out. I think 150 points, you get a very cheap armored hull with a surprisingly reliable gun, which can still wound the heaviest targets in the game on 5s. And you've got all of the other accoutrements with the las cannon, the hunter killer missile, the heavy stubber, and the multi-melter or plasma cannon sponsors as well. The Eradicator may just be the tank to watch. There are a couple of other Leman Russes that got points decreases, which I don't think is going to have a huge impact on their viability though. It's nice to have them go down, but I don't think it changes much about the situation. That's the Executioner down from 180 to 170, and the Punisher down from 160 to 150. The problem with the Executioner is that it's only strength 8 and its ability doesn't kick in until the enemy is already half dead already. And it's hard to justify taking the Executioner when you've got something like the Leman battle tank, which can easily get around its AP limitations and has a much more viable ability as well. So I don't think we're going to see the Executioner suddenly become very popular. If it went down to 160, then maybe it would have been a little bit more viable. But as it is, because it's now still in line with the likes of the battle tank and the likes of the Exterminator, I don't think that the Execution has quite got out from underneath their shadow. Likewise with the Punisher, it's gone down to 150 points, which makes it very cheap and puts it in line with the Eradicator. But the problem with the Punisher is that it's an anti-infantry weapon in a meta of vehicles. Now the Punisher may come into its own if we start seeing a horde meta emerging with the likes of Green Tide and Tyrannid Unending Swarm. It's too early to tell, But for now, I feel like the Executioner, the Punisher, it's not going to start being seen in droves. I suspect that the people that were already using it are going to have a nice little discount, but that's about it. But where things get real kooky is with the Leman Russ Vanquisher, which went down by 10 points as well to an absolute bargain. 145 points for a Leman Russ hull. Now, sure, the Vanquisher can itself leaves something to be desired, although some people swear by it. But the fact that you're getting a toughness 11, 13 wound, 2+ save vehicle, which, even if you don't count the Vanquisher cannon, is coming with a las cannon, a pair of plasma cannons, a heavy stubber, and a hunter killer missile, and it still has the Vanquisher cannon, that is real cheap. So one of my hot takes from these Leman Russ points decreases, I don't think we're going to see the regular Demolisher anymore. I think if you're going to take a Demolisher cannon, you'll just put it on a tank commander. I think people will pivot to the Battle Tank and Exterminator combo. And I don't think we're going to see any more Executioners or Punishers, but I do believe we will see more Vanquishers and Eradicators. Do I think we'll see those spammed by some mad lads? Absolutely. But what I think realistically is going to happen is people will start spamming Leman Russ fleets again. They might move away from the Rogue or Dawn, even though the Dawn is still an amazing vehicle, but just they'll move away from the Rogue or Dawn, they'll start spamming Russes, and rather than seeing in a standard hybrid guard army 4 main battle tanks, typically 1 Rogue or Dawn and 3 Russ variants, I think we'll see 5 now. I think what you'll see is 4 good ones, like the Leman Russ battle tank and the Exterminator, but then that 5th tank is going to be made up from a cheap budget option, either the Vanquisher or the Eradicator. But there are 2 more little point decreases which I think are going to have the most significant impact on the guard meta, and that is the changes to Scions. Not only the Tempestus Scions themselves, but also the Militarum Tempestus Command Squad, both of which went down significantly. Tempestus Command Squad went down from 80 points to 70 points, and the Tempestus Scion Squad went down from 55 to 50 and 110 to 100 points. Respectively, that's for the 5 model squad and the 10 model squad. This means that the Scion Gigablob tactic of taking a, in total, 15-man Scion unit between the command squad and the main Scion squad is just got 20 points cheaper overall. Oh, that's really big. Combine that with the fact that recently Guard got that change, that buff to the way that orders work, so they could do orders coming out of Deep Strike, and I think we have got a genuinely viable alternative to indirect fire, and that is pseudo indirect fire. That is the ability for Science to deep strike down, get into those, get those angles that you can't get from your direct fire units, and just start blowing people off objectives. There's already been a lot of chit, and dare I say chat, on internet forums about how good Scions are. We've had a number of players in the community start spamming them, and we've seen some good results. People have been going 3-2, 4-1 with Scion spam, and these guys have just had a big buff. I think that there could be a real future in the Guard meta of spamming Scions and cheap Leman Russes. We may see a move away from the artillery Kazakin heavy armies and start seeing a move towards a more grenadier style regiment with elite heavy infantry supported by heavy tanks. Now that covers everything that has changed, but what about the stuff that hasn't changed, which in many ways could be just as important? Firstly, the age defense line didn't change, making it still unusably bad. Secondly, Armored Sentinels did not change. I truly expected them to go down by 10 points a pop, if not more. Wouldn't have been surprised they've gone down by 15 points a pop, because they are just the inferior choice to Scout Sentinels, but they did not change, so I don't think we're going to see many Armored Sentinels. We're especially not going to see Armored Sentinels when, for almost the same price as 2 Armored Sentinels, you can get a Leman Russ Vanquisher, and the Vanquisher is actually genuinely better than the Armored Sentinels. The Baneblade and all of the super heavies didn't change, but that wasn't surprising. They are pretty appropriate where they are right now. Kane and Castellan didn't change, no surprise there. Kane and Command Squad, I would have suspected that would have gone down by 5 points to bring it in line with the Platoon Command Squad, but nope, nothing there. None of the infantry choices, none of the battle line choices went down. I thought we would genuinely see Kaschans go up by 5 points and maybe Krieg go down by 5 points. Or maybe even Kaschan go up by 5 points and Cadians and infantry squads go down by 5 points, but we didn't see any of that. So Scout Mirrors are still very, very viable, and Kaschan Jungle Fighters remain a really good choice along with Deathcore of Krieg. They didn't shake anything up in the infantry department, just in the armor department. Chimeras didn't change, which I think is good. I think it's right. Some people would say that the Chimera is a bit too cheap. I don't think so. It's primarily an anti-infantry vehicle in a meta of tanks and monsters. The Chimera is about right where it is. Not too cheap, but not too expensive. Commissar, I didn't expect its points to change, but it would have been nice if they had a rules update to make it a little bit better. Death Strike not changing is just a joke. Gaunt's Ghosts, that didn't change, but what did change is the Calidus Assassin, which went up by 5 points in the Agents of the Imperium out of the Munitorum Field Manual. That, in my mind, means that Guard players are always going to go for Gaunt's Ghosts now. Does the same thing, but it's just better. Heavy Weapon Squads didn't change. That's good. At least it didn't go up with the fact that they can do indirect fire. Straka didn't change. Awesome. The Lord Solar did not change. That's pretty nice. That's pretty good. I think a lot of people were saying he was going to go up 5 or 10 points. Him not changing, I think, is a good move by GW. It shows that on his own, the Lord Solar isn't too on his own. The Lord Solar 125 points is a good deal, but you don't ever take him on his own, or you rarely take him on his own. He often has, you know, another 115 or if not more points of accoutrement with the Platoon Command Squad and whatnot. Servitors not changing. It doesn't surprise me because I suspect GW is going to get rid of them. They have been purging servitors from most factions. Not Dead Dog not going down is disappointing. Ogren Bodyguard not changing. I just don't think GW considered it, frankly. Ogren squads didn't change, but bear in mind that a unit of 6 Ogrens is now 50 points cheaper than a unit of 6 Bulgrins. We may see more Ogren play. I actually quite like Ogrens. I think they've got really good damage out, but they are more of a shooty unit though. We may see some more Ogren play, or the people or people just won't take Bulgrin. That one is a 50-50 wait and see. Platoon Command Squad didn't change, no surprise there. Primaris Psycho didn't change. That's a shame. I would have liked him to go down by 10 points because right now he's just a little too expensive in addition to taking another officer or leader on your infantry, and you're always going to take that other officer or leader because you want to have orders. Running Snipers probably should have gone down to 10 points a model. They're still a bit too much at 12 points a model. Regimental Attaches would have been nice if they'd split them out, but I'm not surprised they haven't done that. Regimental Engineer, wouldn't have expected any changes there. Regimental Preacher would have been nice to go down 5 points, but again, I just don't think they've thought about it. The Rogel Dawn not changing is actually significant because there is now quite a large gap between the cheapest Russ and the Rogel Dawn. Rogel Dawn was 270, 280 points at the beginning of 10th edition. It's still good at 260, but it just feels, I'm not going off any sort of logic here, I'm just going off gut instinct. It now feels like it's not, oh, an amazing deal and cheap. It feels like it's, again, the more expensive choice. So I wonder if psychologically other Guard players will go the same way with that and they'll start moving to Russes. I think we'll see a resurgence in Russes, but Rogel Dawns are still very, very good, and I think there's a lot of play with a triple Rogel Dawn list. Scout Sentinels didn't get changed. That's cool, man. I thought they'd go up by 5 points. Harker not changing, no biggie there. Slime Arbor not changing, big sad. He really needs to be about 50 points. Tank Commander didn't change. I would have liked to have seen the Tank Commander go down to, I'd say 190 points. Still would have made him more expensive than most of the Leman Russ variants. And with Grand Strategist, he would have gone back to his original cost of 205. And most people only take one tank commander with Grand Strategist anyway. But with him not going down, I think that you're still going to see people take the Lord Solar over tank commanders. Really, he needed to stay the same points and do 2 orders or go down by 15 points. Torques not changing means Torques are still terrible. Torques need to be... Hot take here. Torques should be 55 points. They are frankly terrible. They are very, very fragile, and they have no damage output whatsoever, and they have no firing deck. If Torques were 50 points, even then, because of how aesthetically unpleasing they are, a lot of people don't like them just from the looks, I don't know if people would take them. But 65 points, you're not going to take a Torques over a Chimera. The Chimera is appropriately pointed. The Torques needs to go down. Likewise, the Torques Prime, I think, is a good unit. It may see more play because Scions have gone down in points, but I've run my Torques Primes, I've run my Scions with Torques Primes, and I've run my Scions with Chimeras, and I have found that Chimeras do a better job than the Torques Prime because you don't really care about the damage output of the Prime. What you care about is protecting your fragile Scions. Ursula Kree did not change in points, which is a surprise. I did think she would probably go up 5 or 10. Because she is an auto-include in most armies, but I'll take it. Valkyrie should have gone down in points. It hasn't. Big sad. Wyvern, you can make it as cheap as you want. It needs a rules rewrite, but the Wyvern didn't go down in points. Over to Forge World, Avenger Strike, Fighter, Cardon, Colossus. Nothing changed on the Forge World side of things, which, weirdly, for some models, does indirectly nerf them. So now that the Carnodon is actually more expensive than several different Leman Russ variants, you're never going to see it. The Colossus didn't change in points, but it's not indirect fire, so it needs to actually have its nerf undone. The Crassus is still fine. It's still as viable as it was. It's a big, you think of it as like a big Chimera. The Cyclops didn't change, which is amazing. I thought the Cyclops was going to... I was sure thought it was going to go from points, but the fact that it didn't is quite nice. Deathcore Martyr didn't change. Big sigh of relief there for me. Death Riders. Now, I'm surprised the Death Riders didn't go down to be in line with the Tiller Rough Riders. The both units are basically equal to each other, so they probably should have been brought into line. Death Rider Squadron Commander, he probably needs to come down a little bit. Earthshaker Carriage Battery did not change. Now, that's a biggie. I think there's a lot of... There's a lot of argument to be made about just swapping your Basilisks out for Earthshakers and having Creed sat next to them and Creed just ordering both of them. There's a lot of argument to be made there. Hades Breaching Drill didn't change. It's still crap. Macarius and Vanquisher and Vulcan didn't change. Big sad. They need to come down in points. They're worse than the Rogel Dawn and more expensive than it. Malgador probably should have come down in points. By 10 each or maybe 20 each to be more in line with the Leman Russes. Now you're just not going to see anyone take them because Russes are just cheaper by such a margin. The Marauder Bomber, still awful. Marauder Destroyer, still good but overcosted. Praetor, still good but overcosted. Rapier Laser Battery, still very good and well costed as well. Yeah, nice. Stormblade, still the cheapest super heavy. Tarantula, still fun, but probably a bit overcosted. Thunderbolt, probably a bit overcosted considering how bad flyer rules are. Trojan Support Vehicle, probably needs to go down by 10 points. Valdor, just moving on. Boss Pattern Lightning, it was fine. And the Vulture Pattern Gunship definitely needs to come down. Like with the Valkyrie, it's just a lot of the Forge World stuff just hasn't been changed. And I really feel like the Forge World team need to be changing things. Because if I'm remembering correctly, the main GW points, the Index Astra Militarum points, they have been changed twice now. And in the same space of time, the Forge World points have not been changed. And we are seeing the gap widen. The Forge World points were already a little kooky, a little wacky, a little all over the place. Now there are some clear gaps, some clear cracks appearing. And I would strongly implore, I would ask the Forge World team to please just with an afternoon, just go through and just update the points here, because a lot of your stuff is being left behind in terms of relevancy. Now that just about covers everything. Overall, I actually think Guard have been buffed from this points update. I think that the top tier build, that S tier list, has essentially been taken out of the equation. But for the everyman on the street, for the every guardsman in the trench, as it were, I think they're going to find that their lists have gone down in points. And it has opened up a couple of new interesting meta options for the Guard in terms of Scion spam and a return to Lieben Rust fleets over Rogel Dawns. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that Guard overall has been buffed by this? Or do you think that we've just had our meta build taken away from us? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Wolf, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.